Hi viewers, in today's life, today's conversation, we will start by the roots. My name is Irene Wanjiru. Welcome. In today's life and today's conversation, it's a show that I want to start by telling my story so that people can understand who this lady is, who Irene Wanjiru is. It's a journey that I have worked on, and it's a journey that I have been, and I also thank God for this journey. So before we start with anything, I want to tell people why it's important, why the roots are important, and my story will also be part of the roots. So my name is Irene Wanjiru, like I've just said, and born and raised in Isili, 4th Street, precisely. And I I was born in Isili, where I was raised with my mother and my father were staying in Isili. My mother was a businesswoman. My father was working for a company at the airport, and we are four in my family. My brother and two sisters, which makes us four. So I'm the last born of the family. And being the last born of the family, somehow I was born like alone, because if you look at my brother and my two sisters, all of them are like in the same age bracket. I was the one who was like left. It's like I was the last option or minute when my mother was giving birth to me. So life was like a little bit of lonely, but I thank God because I was given love by my father, my mother, and my siblings. Though sometimes we used to fight because they thought that I was taking a lot of love from them, from my parents, and it really helped me to be able to have time to grow, because mostly when you are together in the same age brackets, your mother or your father will not be in a position to look out for you. But if you are the last born and you're in your own bracket, then you have the time to get love. So I really got love from my siblings and my mother and my father. Though my time with my father was very short, because my father died when I was, I think, 3 years to 4 years. I didn't understand much, though my father really loved me so much. I would say my father really loved. If I would explain love, that was the type of love I would have wanted to grow with, because anything I would have said to my father happened. Even when my mother needed something or my siblings needed something, they would send me to my father, go tell him we need this, and it would happen automatically. But it was a very short time, because my father had an issue with his lungs, and unfortunately he died when I was really young. This really took a big toll on my mother's life, because if I would say there was a love of her life, my dad was the love of her life. And when she buried my father, she didn't mourn. We didn't see her mourning, like crying throughout the whole burial. But later on, this is when it hit her, because after my father died, my mother somehow rejected us, or rejected the whole issue. And it really became an issue, because now my mother dwelt in her business more than us. She now became somebody who will wake up early in the morning, go to work and come late, go to chamas, work from one town to another. So she was really busy for us. So we didn't have somebody we could now call anytime we needed somebody. We didn't go when my father was around. We used to go for family functions, we used to go for outings and such, but we didn't have that time after my father died. So it was home, school, and that's it. And I was raised in a place where now my mother is busy. Now I have to go to my auntie's place, the sister of my mother. Now I was torn in between homes, where I was either in my home, but my home I was not there for a long time. I was at my aunt's place. So I would say my aunt raised me, and my aunt she's late. May her soul rest in peace. But now she became a mother more than my mother, because she's the one who used to sometimes talk to me, advise me. But you see, now when you're advised by your auntie, it is not deep like when you want your mother, because some things I rebelled because I wanted my mother, but my mother was not available. But I now started growing with my age group, which was my cousin sister and my cousin brother, and we grew together. Now I felt like I was the firstborn. Now I started taking responsibilities when I was a young girl in primary, because now I left my other siblings, my brother, my sister, and my other sister, and now came to my cousin, where now I'm the firstborn. Now I became responsible at a young age, where I used to look out for them, make sure that I give duties for I started becoming a leader when I was a young girl, because when I was at home, I used to tell them, you're supposed to wash the dishes, you're supposed to wash the house. Now I would be able to give duties, and this really made me now become a leader in so many things. And my auntie saw that, and she also supported me. She was there telling me, now you're the firstborn, so you need to tell them to do this, they need to hear you now. And it was not an easy task, because now when you have people to tell what to do, and they feel that you are not their born sister, or you're not really born together, you just came, they feel there is a rebel, something that will happen, that sometimes you say things that are not done. But I thank God we grew together, and we went to school together. And after going to school together, now we separated after primary school. And after primary school, I went to high school in Muranga. I'm from Muranga, Muranga County. And from Muranga County, that's where now I went to high school. And after going to high school and finished, now I wanted to go to university. But unfortunately, when I finished high school, my mother didn't have the money that I saw us growing. We grew in a very in a good life, I would say that, because we never lacked anything. My mother had money. My mother took care of us. Anything we wanted, we were given. We were actually, where we used to stay, where I grew in Isili, we were the first people to have a TV. You see those big TVs where ziko na nyuma, uko nyuma, they are big. So my house was the first house to have that. So we really had a good life. My mother had a car, a matatu, where she was running businesses. So we had everything. The only thing we didn't have was the love. She wasn't there. But these other things, wearing the best clothes, shoes, anything that we wanted, we would get. But now, after now high school, that is where now things started not looking well. Because when I was in high school, now going to finish high school, my mother somehow didn't have money. She was broke. Now for me, I didn't understand what broke is. It was really hard for me to understand. She's telling us she doesn't have money maybe to pay school fees. There's a time I was chased from school, and that particular time was really hard, because I didn't imagine going to stay at home. I've never stayed at home, but this time I'm chased. And when I go home, I tell my mother I'm chased, we need to pay school fees. She's like, okay, I'll get a solution. And deeply, when I look at her, I saw she's struggling, but she can't tell me. My mother was that person. She's struggling, even you're only having one meal, but she's not saying she's struggling. She's saying, things are not right now, but they will be. So at that particular time, things were hard. And I didn't go to school for almost 1 week. I was at home, and I was asking myself, what is this? You know, when you come to a family where you are having everything and now you're not having, you feel like now, now I started feeling bad. I started feeling like my mother is a failure. She wasn't there, and now she doesn't have money. What is this? Now, she worked her way through, and I went back to school. Now the reality hit me when I finished high school. I want to go to school, And the first thing I wanted to do was air hostess or become a pilot. And now my mother told me to go and look for a college or a university. And I went to aviation because by that time aviation was the talk of the town. So I went to aviation, received the school fees and everything, and I went back to my mom so excited. And I told her, now I want to do this course and I wanted to become a air hostess. If not, if it's possible, I can do piloting. My mom looked at the school fees and she was like, this is too much. I said, what do you mean this is too much? She said, no, this I can't be able to pay. So what we are going to start with, as I'm looking for money, you'll start with a computer. Oh my God, my life came from 100 to 0. I felt like have you been in a position where somebody is talking and you're not hearing, you're just thinking about other things? That is where I was. Now she's trying to tell me how she will. I'm like, no. I took like 15 minutes to 20 minutes and I told my mother, no, I can't do computer. That was not me. She said I have to, because it's either I stay at home or I start doing something before she gets school fees. I said no. It took me almost a month, and between 1 month and 2 months, to be able to accept that I will go for computer, which finally I did. After that, I was just thinking, like, I was just praying and saying, God, please, by the time I'm done with this, my mother will be in a position to get money so that I can be able to do the aviation course, which didn't happen. Sadly, it didn't happen. And the next course I took was French. So I took that French because I didn't want to stay at home. I just didn't want to stay at home, and I didn't want to believe that I'm not going to do the course that I wanted. And this, I went just to fill time, and for me I said wasting money, because that money my mother would have done something, but I wanted to get out of the house. So when I was doing the college thing, now I started thinking of leaving the country. I was thinking of anything, either going to do house help or something. I was just trying to think of not being in Nairobi or near my mom. Now I started becoming a rebel. I left home. I went to my sister's place. I started moving from one friend to another, I was trying to communicate to my mother. And my mother really now felt that, this is serious. One time she came to my sister's place and told me to go back home, then we will see what to do. I told my mother, I'm not coming back home. If she's not getting money for me to do that course, I'm not going back home. My mother told me things are not good. She's trying all her best. I go back home. Finally, I went back home, but still, I was bitter. I was angry. I didn't understand what she was telling me. Eventually, now I told myself, now I have to pray, because now after finishing French, I went back home and I was staying in the house. Apparently, to a point that I started looking after my sister's son. Now I became like a housemaid, ukweli, like for real, because I would wake up in the morning, make sure he's clothed for going to school, prepare tea. And now me and my mother used to fight a lot. She would look for something and start making noise, and me, I will do something deliberately for her to make noise, so that house cannot be enough for us. And eventually I got to a point where at that particular time I was dating somebody, and now I started leaving the house in the morning, and I would go na naenda kushinda huko mahali yeye ako, and he was a matatu driver, and I would stay there in that matatu nazunguka tu, so that ni kama nimetoka job, because I would get out of the house at 10 and come back in the house at 8, ni kama mtu ametoka kazi, just to get out of the house. But eventually there was a friend of him was working in Intercontinental Hotel, and at that particular time we started talking. That guy just liked me and said, I think you can work in a hotel. And I told him, yes, I've had a passion. It's either I become an air hostess or I go to a hotel, because I really loved working in a hotel. And before that, I would walk through Intercontinental. By that time, Intercontinental was the biggest hotel in Nairobi. So I would go and say, siku moja nitafanya kazi hapa. I would go there and say one day I will work. And I didn't have qualifications, but I believed that I will work. There is power in your tongue. So when I went, when he came and he said he's working there and he will connect me at least to get a chance to go and work in Intercontinental, I said, why not? So I went for the interview, and funny enough is that I found people, watu wameenda utalii hotel, they have done courses. Somebody's coming with a big file. Misa hiyo niko na CV. I had CV that had 2 pages, and that CV, for it to become 2 pages, I una space so that that CV can be 2 pages. I looked at my CV and looked some of the people there, and I said, wow, am I going to get an opportunity in this place? But I told God, I have been praying. I will go, and I will trust that God, you will give me a chance. But what I did was I dressed very well. There is power in how you dress and your first impression to people. What I worked for was the suit. I made sure that I got a very nice suit and nice shoes, and I had made my hair and a nice makeup, and I went, and I believed that. So when I got there, I found we were almost 200 people. Now when somebody is called, I would go back. Instead of going with the line, I would go back because I felt like I'm not worth it. But to a point I saw already 100 and people are going, and I said, I'm wasting time. Why will I not go? I said, I'm pushing on. And I pushed on. And I went, and I was avoiding a certain lady. She was the HR. I was looking for another guy because I said, guys are lenient. Even if he will not give me a mark, but at least he will not give me a mark that I am not happy with. But God directed me. The only space that I was given was that lady that I was running away from. And I went, and she looked at me. She looked at me, and she was like impressed at how I was looking. And the only thing she asked me was my CV. I gave out my CV, but I was shy when I was giving out my CV. And she looked at me, and she saw that I didn't have any experience. I didn't go to any school. The only thing I had done was computer and French. And she said, okay. And she asked me for my birth certificate, and I gave out my birth certificate. And when I gave out my birth certificate and my ID, the dates were not in the same place. So there was something I needed to correct. So she advised me to go get an affidavit that said that my correct dates are the ones on my birth certificate. And I said, okay, I will do that. And she told me immediately, when you leave here, that is what you're going to do. And I said that. And then she said, after 5 days, we'll call you for the feedback. And I went. But I went knowing that they will never call me back. I went. So when we were leaving, I already had made friends. And when leaving, the people said, they asked me this question. I was like, they asked you, which question is that? I said, I didn't know anything. So they said, what did they ask you? I said, even I've forgotten. But the only thing she asked was about my CV and my birth certificate. And I said, God, now this killed me. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. God will just make a way. And I went home. And I forgot about that interview. After 5 days, I got a phone call, and they told me I was shortlisted to go for the next step after the interview. And we were told to go and look for our names at a particular place that we went for the interview, and we went. What surprised me, I was amongst the 5 top people that were placed for trainings. I said, who can do this? It was only God's doing. And I thank God, because now my faith became stronger from that particular time. And I said it was only God that took me to this level. And that is how I started my hotel career. And that is where I got my training. I would say Intercon was a school for me more than a job place, because I got everything I know about hotel industry. That is where it birthed itself. So that is where I knew everything from theory to practical. That is where, and I thank God, because the team that I found there was willing and able to go to let me learn. One thing I had passion. I tell people that when you have passion of something, even if you've not gone to school, you will get it, because mine was more of passion. We went there, did trainings, and we were not paid. For almost 2 months we were not paid, but every morning early I was there, and we'll go through trainings. And after that, I got an opportunity and became my first job. I was a waitress, and we did. I started learning a lot of things. From there, I became a hostess. After hostesses, I got chances in both the food and beverage office, where I helped the assistant secretary. I went to the HR department, where I was also given an opportunity to be able to work there. So I grew in the hotel industry. I really grew, because after that, when I left Intercontinental, I went to Dubai. I got a chance. There is a lady called Lillian. She used to have offices at Prestige, opposite Prestige Mall, on your way to Ngong Road. And when we went there, it wasn't easy also, because at that particular time when I was Intercon, that was the time for election, the first elections that we had that were really bad, and most people were laid off. The people, and when I went to Intercon, I didn't get a permanent job. It was a casual job. So you could imagine the first people who were supposed to go home were the casuals. So we went home, and after that particular time of Intercontinental, we used to call it Intercon. So we went back home, and then I got another opportunity. By the time now I'm going back to the hotel industry, I became pregnant. So I had a baby and a job to run with, and still I was at my mother's place. And that particular time, I didn't understand anything, because now a baby has come, I'm working, I don't know how to juggle this up, but I really worked really hard. Then after Intercon, when I didn't go back to work, I started looking for other options. I got a job with a certain friend of ours, was a family friend, who had opened an office to resell computers. I didn't know anything about sales and marketing. So I started another journey of doing sales and marketing, which it didn't work so well, because the amount she was paying me, I had a house help. I had to pay the house help, though I didn't pay rent because I was staying at my mother's house, but I had to pay for a housekeeper to be able to look after my child and be able to wash clothes and other things. And after that, that's when I got an opportunity to go to Dubai, which was not easy, because I had gone for 5 interviews, different companies, and I failed. I failed. Now the last option, the last interview now was almost the 6th or the 7th one, and I had given up. I said, I will not go for these interviews again. And at that particular time, there was an interview for a company that wanted people to do customer service, like the Safaricom, but it wasn't Safaricom, it was just another company that wanted. And we went there for interviews a day, and then we started trainings. The first day, second day, third day, we were told to stop the trainings, because now it was going towards December, and they said now they will start trainings again in January. Now my hope again. I felt like, now this life is becoming too hard. I have a baby, I don't have a job, my mother is on my neck. Now I felt like, this world is coming to an end for me. But as we were walking, it was in Mombasa Road, we didn't have fare. So one of the lady had 30 bob, and we said we'll buy bananas. We eat the bananas to get energy, so that by the time we reach to town, we have energy, so that somebody can walk from town to where they stay. So we went. By the time we got to town at railways, tukaanza kujipanguza vumbi, so that when you meet with somebody in town, they wouldn't know that umetoka huko kutembea. And while I was in town, a friend of mine called me. We used to work with her in Intercon, and she told me, where are you? I told her I'm from some other place. We were doing trainings, and I'm trying to go home, but I don't have fare. She told me, where are you? I told her I'm walking towards entering to town. She told me, find me in a place she used to take me for lunch. Find me at that place, I buy you lunch. I said, thanks God. Let me go. So when I was walking through Luthuli, I got a phone call. A lady said, hi Irene, how are you? I'm fine. We've been waiting for your feedback. I asked, for what? You are selected on a certain job. You're supposed to be giving us your medical and the test that we sent you. Said, me? Are you sure it is Irene Wanjiru? She said, yes, Irene Wanjiru. I said, no, I didn't get a phone call. She said, no, I called you. I said, no, you didn't call me. So she said, now you only have 2 weeks for you to make sure that your paperwork is done, because your visa is out, your ticket is out, is only the things that we need. I said, I said, okay. She said, please try your best. This one is an opportunity. I said, I will try my best. After that call, I asked God, okay, now the job is here. Where will I start? They wanted good contact. They wanted medical. They wanted a few things here and there. I said, where will I start? Now, I've met my friend. I told her about that issue. She said, don't worry, things will be fine. I said, okay. I went back home. I went and told my mother that I've gotten this opportunity and I only have 2 weeks to travel. My mother said, it's a lie. Those people will call me. They will. So she didn't give me she didn't encourage me. I said, now what will I do? The job is here. Now I don't have any money to go for, to be able to get the fingerprints, and I wanted to go for that. Let me tell you, I walked. I went to friends. I went to each and every person I knew. You can imagine, 1,000 took me almost 1 week to be able to find that 1,000. But eventually I got it. I went. I got the certificate. After the certificate, I went. Now was the medical. The medical almost costed me like 12,000. Now the 12,000 was another problem. I walked. I went to people. I begged. Now this my friend that called me for lunch assisted me on that. And I told her, when I go to that job, I will be able to pay you. And I went for the medical. I finished the medical. I cleared the medical. And I was ready to travel. We traveled around after Christmas, yes, because it was on 27th of December. And I left Nairobi and went to Dubai. The job that I thought that I will go and find there was not the job that was in my mind. But it was a waitress job. Now, the job in Nairobi, what people say as a waitress is not the same, unless, because that company was a company based of doing more of banqueting, and banqueting is not like a restaurant. Banqueting is more of events, weddings, and you know, for the Arabs, if for them it's more of not parties, it's weddings, and they have families, and their family is not 50, it's 1,000, 800, 700. Those are the people they are catering for. So we used to carry trays, the big trays from here, from the shoulder. And that job, we would go for 3 days without even going, without resting, because it is, they want weddings for 3 days. For them, it is an event. It's not something small. So the way I pictured that job and the way I found that job was not easy. But I managed, because for me, I didn't want to go back home, because I've left a daughter, I've left my mother, and I wanted big dreams for myself. So I said, this is just an opportunity to start off. So let me see how I will grow in Dubai. I did, and from that banqueting, I got an opportunity to go to a restaurant, and I grew. So I thank God, because each and every hotel that I've gone, I've grown. I've grown, because even my last job was in Radisson Blue, where I was a supervisor. And if I look my journey in the hotel industry, it wasn't an easy one, but with persistence and hard work and prayers. It was not only hard work. Some people say, work hard and things. No, if you don't have that prayer with you, I'm telling you, you're not going to make it. But I made it through. And I left Dubai after 3 years from one company to another one, and I came back to Kenya. After Kenya, I stayed home for like almost 6 months without looking for a job, because you see now, I left my daughter when she was almost 1 year, 3 months. So my daughter didn't understand where the mother went. She used to say, she used to see an aeroplane and tell people, mama angu ako huko kwa hiyo ndege iko huko juu. So she really missed me, and you only would get time to call your child for only maybe 15 minutes if you will talk much. So when I came back, I said, no, I'm not going to look for a job directly. I'll come stay with my daughter so that at least she can understand where her mother was, the love and everything. So I used to wake up in the morning, take her to school, pick her from school, so that at least we can have a relationship. So by the time I was looking for a job, at least I had moved from my mother's house to now to my own house now, with my house help. Now we were myself, my house help, and my daughter. And my journey from there now made me to realize responsibility is something that you really need to look after. Because when I now was with my daughter, you know, when I was with my mother, she would buy food for us, she would pay electricity. Now you pay food, you pay electricity, you pay the house help. Now it is now for you to be able to understand responsibilities is not a joke. So when I came back to Kenya, I got a job in Kempinski Hotel, and I worked through there. After that, after 2 years, when I saw there was no growth, I went to Safaricom. After Safaricom, now I landed myself to Radisson Blue. After now Radisson Blue, I started my own business. Now I'm a businesswoman.